pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board of Adjustments is a 9-member board. We're appointed by the City Council, and we serve on a voluntary basis without any compensation. Our procedure for conducting business is the petitioner will be given the opportunity to come forward and present his or her request, and please be prepared to answer any questions that any member of the board may have. Anyone interested in or any kind of opposition that you might have to a particular item, you'll be asked to come forward and voice your opinions. Once we receive public testimony and discussion for that particular item, members of the board will deliberate and we will render our decision. I remind any member with a personal or a financial interest in any particular item, you're required to recuse yourself from voting. Any testimony submitted by the petitioner or on behalf of the petitioner during a presentation of the agenda item will be binding as to any decision the board makes relative to the motion. I'll remind the members of the board, if a motion is made to deny a particular item, you must give a reason. This time I'll introduce the members of the board that are here now. Ms. K.T. Brown, Mr. Steve Hughes, Mr. Nathan Williams, Mr. Bart Prince, Mr. Pickett Reese, George Howell Jr. I'm John Stanley, your chairman. Our planning and control staff that are here tonight, Mr. Robert Smith, our director of planning, Mr. Tommy Tyson, our executive secretary, Mr. James Center, Ms. Tanya Ingram, the recording secretary. It takes 5 votes from the board members to take action on a particular item, whether it's for an approval or denial. We have 7 members here tonight. A motion requires 5 votes for approval or denial. Any questions? We have 8 items on the agenda tonight. We'll take them in order. First item tonight is presented by Southern Sign Crafters, representing Central Alabama ENT Associates, requesting a height variance and a front yard variance for a new ID sign to be located at 6980 Went Blunt Boulevard in an O1 zoning district. Anyone here for Southern Sign Crafters?
Yes, the main reason they're wanting to do this is so they can gain a parking.
We need your name and your address, please, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Kenneth.
And I'll ask everyone to please do that and speak clearly into the mic.
Yes, sir, my name's Kenneth Jones, and I'm with Southern Sign Crafters. Our address is 3165 Wetumpka Highway. What we're asking for is a height and set variance for a sign because the existing sign they have now is taking up a parking spot, and basically they're trying to gain another parking spot in their area because they've already got a tight parking lot.
Mr. Jones, it appears to me that this is the only pole-like sign in that area, that everything up and down Went Blunt Boulevard is either monument,
yes, sir,
or it's sitting back and in compliance with the setback and the height requirement.
I know they're not with the height requirement. I've got a couple of pictures of Baptist Hospital and a couple of other ones that are 12.
But they're monument.
Yes, sir.
They're mine, correct? Am I correct?
And I don't think there is to my knowledge, I'd have to go back up there and look to see if there is any other pole type sign.
I'll look and I'll save you the trip. There is not one.
All right, thanks, sir.
Okay? So, in this case, this sign would be higher than anything along that strip.
No, sir.
Where?
The Baptist Hospital and there's another pediatric. There's 2 Baptist Hospital signs that are.
But they're monument, correct?
Yes, sir. Now we can change that one to monument.
Okay. Would you agree to do that?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree to lower the height some? I believe 12 feet's higher than anything I saw, okay?
I don't argue with, but I did measure Baptist and this other one, and there, from the ground grade level to the top of the sign is exactly 12 feet. On those three existing
I would not
signs.
have thought that, okay?
Yes, sir.
But this sign would be different than any sign along there,
I agree with it being on a pole, yes, sir.
okay? Would you agree to come back and present us a monument sign later
Yes, sir.
and move it back off the property line? Right now, you got it right on the property line,
Yes, sir, it's about a foot off the property line.
okay?
Mr. Stanley,
Yes, sir.
if you carry this over, you can hear it next meeting. If you just carry it over.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
That's correct. I'm going to ask that you come back with a monument sign that's in keeping with the character of the other signs along there.
Yes, sir, and move it back.
Do I have a motion from the board to do that?
I'll give a motion, but I wanted to ask the question, are you sure it's 12 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is he going to?
I'm not saying that 12 is acceptable, okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm just asking you to take a look at it and be compliant with more along what's there,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Mainly monument sign.
Mainly a monument, but I don't think we're not saying 12 is acceptable. I want you to take a look at what else is there.
Okay.
I
Okay.
move that we carry it over to the next meeting.
Have a motion to carry over. To have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hughes. All in favor? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item number 2 is presented by Philip Pouncey Builder, representing J. Wolf, requesting a coverage variance and a separation between structures variance for an accessory structure to be located at 3049 Highfield Drive in an R85 district. Mr. Pouncey?
Yes, I'm Philip Pouncey. We're requesting this variance. There's an existing structure there that's been there for about 18 years, I think, and it's more of a aluminum and canvas type structure. It is a permanent structure, but it doesn't match architecturally with the house. And they are in need of a bigger structure for a handicap accessible van, and that's the primary purpose of doing this.
All right. Board members, if you do the math on this, the new structure is 768 square feet. The existing structure is 144 square feet. That's the 912 minus what's allowed is 765. So the variance is 147 square feet is the coverage variance. Philip, you've got one structure that's 7.5 feet off the rear property line. Okay?
Yes.
The new structure is 7.5 feet off the property line.
Well, the property line is a little bit of an angle there if you see where
Well,
the...
excuse me, it's 5.6 at one point, 7.5 at the other.
That's right.
So, like we always do, when you're that close to the property line, I got to ask the question, you're going to take care of the water and keep it on the property?
Yes.
And not dump it on your property, adjacent property owner?
Yes, there's actually a brick wall and planter that's along that property line. There's about a 16-inch thick brick wall that's there that creates a separation from the rear property line. And there's a planter there, so the water runoff, captured in a gutter or whatever, the water does not go toward the neighbor on the backside because the wall is built all the way across the property. There's a brick wall there that separates the property line.
Okay. Well, just be sure that you keep that water on his property.
Right.
Any questions, board members?
Just one, what did you say? You said 768 instead of 765.
765 is what's allowed.
Okay,
And so your variance is 147.
147.
Uh-huh. Any other questions, board members? Is anyone in the audience care to address this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Reese. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Please, Mr. Williams, did you raise your? Everybody? 100. Okay. You got it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. Item 3 is presented by Maxine Taylor, requesting a coverage variance and a special exception for sanitary facilities in an accessory structure to be located at 450 Courtney Drive in an R75S zoning district. Ms. Taylor?
Yes, Maxine
Hello.
Taylor.
Okay.
I am wanting to build a garage that's 24 by 36 at my home. It's on the side, but it's, according to the legal description, that's actually the back.
Okay. And you understand that you cannot use this for living purposes?
Yes.
Okay?
However, I am asking for plumbing to be installed because I do glass work and I need water for the
Right.
plumbing.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's primarily why you're here, coverage and the sanitary facilities. Okay? Not sure how far you are from your adjacent property owner, but be sure you know you got to keep the water, your water, off of your building, off of your building on your property.
Right,
Cannot spill on your adjacent property owner.
right,
Okay? And you're going to use it for a garage, a workshop, and a studio.
right.
Okay? No other purpose.
No other purpose.
Okay? Any questions, board members? Anyone in the audience care to address this item? I'll let... You got a question? Oh, okay. I almost lost you there.
I do. Cruz Reeves.
Okay, Cruz.
I want to know if this is a commercial operation or is this just a hobby?
Hobby.
You don't do any sales to outsiders?
No, I'm just started doing glass work. I won't ever be good enough for that.
All right, that's what I want to know.
Good question. No retail sales,
No.
so it's a hobby only.
Yes.
Okay? Any other questions? Anyone else in the audience care to address this item? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve this request.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Item 4 is presented by Robert and Denise Badshaw, requesting a rear yard variance and side yard variance for an accessory structure to be located at 3370 Lexington Road in an R75M zoning district.
My name is Denise Bashaw. This is my husband, Robert. We live at 3370 Lexington. We would like to put a garage in our backyard, but because of current trees and just the way the yard is situated, we need to have it just 2 feet from the side fence and 2 feet from the back fence. We did speak to our neighbor on the side where the garage is going, and he did give us a statement to say that he was perfectly happy with us doing that if it was, confirmed by you.
Okay. Well, you're 2 feet off your property line. It's mighty close. Be sure to keep your water on your property. Okay? The Architectural Review Board in that neighborhood has already
They've already
approved it.
approved it.
Correct? Okay. Any questions, board members? Anyone in the audience care to address this item? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hughes. Any further discussion, board members? All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5 is presented by Kenyatta Perryman, requesting a height variance for a privacy fence located at 429 Edward Street in an R65D zoning district. Ms. Perryman here? Okay, we'll delay that to the end of the meeting, see if she shows. Is anyone here in regards to that item? We'll carry it over to the end of the meeting. Item 6 is presented by Joe Petranka, representing Centerpoint Fellowship Church, requesting a setback variance for an ID sign to be located at 608 East Fairview Avenue in an R75S zoning district. Hello, Joe.
Hey, how you doing? Joe Petranka, and I'm representing Centerpoint Fellowship Church. As you said, we're requesting this 29-foot setback. Normally it's 35 feet, I believe, is what the setback is, and we're requesting 6 feet off the property line. The sign itself, 2 years ago, we presented this, and it was a large monument sign at that time. And we've changed the focus to match up with one existing sign that's on the property of where Baptist Church is, right? The Cloverdale Baptist Church is. So this is actually the drawing of the sign itself that we'd like to get the setback for.
So it's a double-sided sign.
Yes, sir. But it's not a lighted. It's only lighted by ground lighting, and not a lighted sign within.
It's not internal.
It's not plastic, and it can be removed at any time.
Okay. And so the maximum height is 6 feet, correct?
Yes, sir. And it is the same physical height as one of the existing signs on the facility, the Baptist Church sign.
So it's ground lit.
Yes, sir. LED 30 watt, 4000 K lighting.
Okay. Any questions, board members? Anyone in the audience care to address this item? I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the setback variance for Mr. Petranka.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second?
Second.
Second.
Would I base my second on the fact of July 26, 2016 meeting? The
Sure.
Architectural Review
Sure.
Board.
Sure. Okay. The Architectural Review Board approved it at their meeting.
No.
We are meeting with them on
Excuse me.
He's
Excuse
supposed
me.
to
on the
be-
26th.
We're here on July 26th.
Right, with 26 on that meeting, yes.
Okay. So Ms. Brown, all right, do I have a second, first of all?
Yeah.
All right, now further discussion.
Further discussion is that since he's meeting, I want my decision to be based on the fact of the approval also of the Architectural Review Board.
Okay.
Are you okay? Are you okay with that? Yes. Okay. I have a motion to approve, subject to Architectural Review Board's approval at their meeting on July 26, 2016.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 7 is presented by St. Stephen's Baptist Church, requesting to rescind the approval of a special exception for church-related use at 1503 Hale Street in an R65D zoning district. Name and address, please, ma'am.
My name is Mary Dorsey,
Ms. Dorsey?
Yes.
Okay.
and the address we're referring to is 1609 Willard Street, Montgomery, Alabama, 36104.
Okay, Ms. Dorsey. Now, I have to ask you, are you here in regards to rescinding the approval that we had granted before?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, okay. All right. And your name, sir?
Deacon Herman Thornton,
Mr. Thornton, okay.
same 1609 Willard Street, St. Stephen's Baptist Church.
Okay. All right. In our agenda, there's a lot of information here, okay? I'm not sure everybody has had an opportunity to review it all, okay? So really what I'd like for you to do, one of you to speak as to why you're here and bring us up to date with what's going on.
Okay, I will do that. I got a call from one of my members. I did not know you all film y'all meetings, so I didn't know the channel that it'd be on. So he called me, he said, D, I didn't know we had an outreach ministry. I said, well, the church don't have outreach ministry. He said, yes, we do. I said, no, we don't. He said, yeah, it's on Hale Street. I said, well, the church don't even own property on Hale Street. So we don't have outreach ministry on Hale Street. He said, well, y'all need to do something about it because if something happened on that property, they're coming after the church. I said, well, let me look into it. and I looked into it, and when I did look into it, I went to the individual, well, one of the brothers, Mr. Darrell Scarver. I talked to him, and I told him what was going on. He said, well, I don't handle that. Talk to my sister, Rosalind. I talked to Rosalind about it. Rosalind said, oh, no, it's a mixed up. They asked me what church I belongs to. I said, no, never got it in St. Stephen. They asked me what church I belongs to. So knowing that I already had the CD of the meeting, I knew that was already funny. And knowing that I had the questions and answers to her at this meeting requesting this here, so I left it alone. Came back up again, Deep, what y'all doing? Been some shooting out there. Hardening going on out there. And it's in the church name. I said, no, the church ain't got nothing to do with it. He said, yes, the church. So I went down to on Washington Street and asked, what could the church do to get this out of the church name? Because the church do not own this property, don't have no outreach ministry on this property. So we are here today to get the church cleared off of this property, because the church don't have no dealing whatsoever.
Okay. Well, what you're asking us to do is rescind what we had approved before.
Yes, sir.
Based upon the testimony that a Mrs. Braswell gave us.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So I'm gonna let you finish. If you finish now, fine. I'm gonna see if Mrs. Braswell's here.
Oh, okay.
Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Is Ms. Braswell here?
Her husband.
Okay. You want to speak on her behalf?
Before he
okay.
come, could I get her name?
That's
Again,
Ms. Dorsey.
Miss,
That's Mary Dorsey, and this is Mr. Thornton, Deacon Thornton.
She's one of the trustees at the
Yes.
church.
Okay. All right, so if you'll step aside and let, I guess, Mr. Braswell? Okay. Mr. Braswell, you want to address their concerns and tell us why, what's going on there?
At that property now, it's been sold about a year now. Since August.
Sir, address us.
Well, the property hasn't been sold, but the building has. So the building has been sold.
Okay, we don't care whether it's sold or not. We want to know that we're talking about the use, okay?
Yes.
And they're here to rescind what we had granted them based upon the testimony of Mrs. Braswell. So, on May the 15th, 2014, and we've got a copy of her presentation. We've got a copy of what she gave to us dated April the 17th, 2014.
Okay.
So it lists a lot of things here that apparently, well, appears that it's in conflict with what she said she was going to do there.
Well, she said it was a ministry at first, and then it kept breaking in the building, tearing up everything out there. So we ended up selling it.
Well, if you sold it, are you still operating there?
No.
Then do you have a problem with us rescinding the motion?
Okay.
Okay, yes, you don't have a problem?
Well, I don't have a problem with that, no.
Okay, all right, good. Y'all want to step back up? Mr. Thornton? So, you heard what he said. We'll
Yes,
deal
sir.
with it.
Yes.
Okay, are you okay with that?
I'm fine.
Great. Do you have any further, have any discussion, board members?
I would like to know, are you the chairman of the Deacon Board or chairman of the trustee board?
She's one of the chair.
I'm one of the
Trustee
one of
board.
3
You're one
trustees.
of the trustees, and neither one is the chairman of either board.
I'm the vice chairman.
You're the vice chairman.
Yes.
And those people, like the pastor and the chairman of these boards, they weren't available?
Well, the chairman of the board just had a new grandbaby. It's in Birmingham, Deacon White. It's in Birmingham. So he's running from Montgomery to Birmingham to help his daughter out with the grandbaby that's been born. Our pastor is in revival in Gordonville, so.
Well,
But you have the authority to be here, is what we're
Yes,
asking.
sir, yes.
Well, that's all I want to know. You have authority to be here. You're vice chair of the board, so you're just as good as the chair of the board.
Yes,
If y'all represent the church.
yes, sir.
So there shouldn't be no problem.
Okay?
Thank you.
Any further discussion, board members? Is there anyone in the audience that cares to address this particular item? I will entertain a motion to rescind the special exception that this board granted on May the 15th, 2014.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve for the rescission of that motion. Do I have a second?
The second.
Second, Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Item 8 is presented by Dr. Mahmoud Zaid, representing East Montgomery Islamic Society, LLC. Before Dr. Zaid starts his presentation, many of you will be given an opportunity to come forward and voice your opinions for or against. But we do not want repetition. We don't need to hear the same story, okay? If you got something new to say, you'll be given that opportunity. Otherwise, I'll ask you to sit down. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Dr.
Dr. Mahmoud Zayed, East Montgomery Islamic Society, 8786 Van Road. We requested Mr. Kabayan to represent us in the presentation. Please, sir.
I did fail to review the item here, and they are requesting a special exception for a mosque, a community center, to be located at 8786 Vaughn Road in a PGH and PUD zoning district.
My name is Leon Capuano. I'm an attorney in Montgomery, 560 South McDonough. And I want to make a very simple presentation where they're requesting the right to build a mosque at the particular location, which you have a description of there. And I also have here a photograph, or a map, which shows the location of the property as it sits relative to Deer Creek, which is here and here. The subject property is here with the drive coming off of Vaughn Road.
Mr. Capuano, you need to lay that down a little bit.
All right.
Excuse me, make it more vertical. We can't see it. There you go.
This,
Tell them to talk on the mic.
Pull the mic over. Mr. Capuano, there's a screen up here that's got the
Great.
property.
All right, well, we see the subject property is located on the map. It's outlined in red. It faces, that's a pointer, that's the red. Okay. Thank you. This is the subject property. It's on Vaughn Road. That is a drive which goes to it. And this is the location of the property. This is Deer Creek Housing, and this is Deer Creek Housing. To the rear of this property, there are 5 houses along this line. This is the road that goes into Deer Creek here. The property here is bordered by trees along here with this particular property here, I think, is owned originally by the developers and still owned by them, I believe. This is where the mosque would be built, on this location, coming off of this drive on Vaughn Road. At the present time, this property, the road leading into this property is not wide enough to accommodate a fire truck which goes into the property.
Talking to the mic, please.
This property, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Start over with that
I'll
last
start
comment.
I'll start over again. The road that leads into this property off of Vaughn Road at the present time, I believe, is about 15 foot wide. I am informed by the engineer that in order to comply with the requirement that a fire truck be able to navigate this road, that it needs to be wider. It is the intent of the mosque to construct the road in such a way as it will comply with the requirements that are set out by the fire department with regard to the width of the road. I am also informed by the engineer that the other typical requirements by the city of Montgomery in terms of building the building are substantially in compliance with very minor variations. They got to get more water to come back into this property. It will require the changing of the size of a water line from this area up here. I made a presentation at Deer Creek to the Deer Creek community within the past couple of weeks. This matter was reported not only at that meeting, it was also appeared on television the next day. The problem that we seem to have here is that the community has indicated a concern about having a mosque in this area. It seems that the concerns primarily related to the fact that it was a Muslim community building a mosque in the center of Montgomery. There was concern expressed about the potential behavior of the Muslim community in Montgomery. And my relationship with the Muslim community in Montgomery is I have several friends who are Muslims who I have known for close to 15 years. I find the ones that I know to be good citizens, reputable people, and I find that the Muslim community in Montgomery has been a peaceful community in this city. Now, we all know that there are tremendous problems with terrorist problems throughout the country. This is Montgomery, Alabama. There's been a talk radio has grabbed a hold of this, and there's been conversation on talk radio. There was a column in the newspaper by Josh Moon. He talked about the need for our citizens to be respectful of one another and to allow us all to exercise the ability to worship our religion. At that meeting, there were also questions raised as to the call to prayer and whether or not that noise would disturb the neighborhood. We can assure you that the call to prayer will not resound outside of the building. There will not be any noise emanating from the property as a consequence of the call to prayer. There will be no lights at night facilitating the use of any of the property as a playground or for other activities. This property is secluded, actually, and it's surrounded primarily by trees now. It's my understanding that the engineer has determined that he would put along the backside of the property at whatever the required distance apart a row of magnolia trees which will shelter this mosque from the rear lot line along here. In point of fact, there is a privacy fence which is to the rear of that property as it exists now. If they can comply with the requirements of the city as to how this building needs to be built, and it will be in compliance with the engineering requirements, the fire code requirements, and whatever the other requirements are of this board and the building departments in Montgomery, then I think that the approval of this ought to be a very simple matter. We have an engineer, Frank Garrett is here to explain any engineering questions you may have. Other than that, we think that this mosque needs to be granted approval. We find, I think, the citizens in our Montgomery community who are Muslims have been of credit to this community. There are, I think, as members of this mosque, 12 doctors, 4 individuals who work for the state. The total membership in this mosque is less than 60. The maximum number that attend services are between 60 and 80, a rather small distraction. The only time the mosque is packed with people would be on their particular religious holidays. Other than that, the daily attendance at the mosque is minimal. There are 4 prayers a day, I believe, and you have a maximum attendance at those normal prayers of maybe up to 20 people. There will not be a traffic problem occasioned by their usage of the facility. The prayers will be quiet. They have picked a private location. They are deep into property that is surrounded by trees. The church, which is along the front of Vaughn Road, the pastor is here to inform the board that they welcome them in that location. The daughter of one of the members wants to say a few words to the meeting, as does the pastor, and as does an officer from Maxwell Air Force Base, who I think is a resident of Deer Creek. So with that, I would submit that we have here what ought to be an approvable project.
I have some questions. Our agenda provides that we are considering this for a mosque and a community center. Leon, please define what the definition of community center here is in this regard.
Well, Doctor, would you answer that?
Community center, that after we finish prayer, we sit sometimes together and we socialize. That's it. Just that.
And you do what? I'm sorry.
Socialize.
Socialize?
Yes.
So is it an open community center for the neighborhood, or is it for your membership?
It's open for the neighborhood. We told them that we are welcome to that. And one of the lady asked me how we access that. We told them we have a code on the door. They put the code and then the key inside. We rent a property now in Kissinger Drive for the last 7 years. We do the same. Anybody is welcome to come there and attend the community center.
The numbers that normally attend, the numbers of people that normally attend what you consider to be the community situation is a limited number of people that come.
Very limited number, because during the day, everyone at work. The only time maybe at night, maybe maximum 20 in the last prayer, and Friday prayers is the only once a week. Other than that, it's always vacant.
Is access to this property only from Vaughn Road?
Yes, sir.
So there won't be any cut-throughs or any other accesses from the adjacent neighborhood, or particularly Deer Creek?
No, you can't, because there is 5 houses there, and these houses are private property. And you
I understand, I understand. But what I want to make sure of, there's no gate or cut-through or whatever. You know how those things develop over time.
This property here, I do not believe is owned by the Homeowners Association of Deer Creek.
Well,
right.
The access.
This other point that this property could be accessed is right along here, alongside the road. That property there is not owned by the Deer Creek Homeowners Association. I think that is owned by the developer of the property. So there's no access which is available from this road. There is a fence along the back of Deer Creek. I mean, along the backside of the property, to the back of these houses, there's no available access to it there.
So all pedestrian and vehicular access will be from Vaughn Road?
That's correct. That's correct.
Good. All right. Our agenda also provides for volleyball courts. Okay? Tell us about that. When will they be used? and we want to make sure, you know, that noise is restricted.
Yes, sir. We cancel the idea after we see there is project, they don't want that, so we don't want, I mean, this is not important for a mosque.
Let me ask you this question. Some things are hard to predict for the future. At the present time, how many children do you have of the members of the mosque in the community? Is it 20, 30, 50?
20, 30, 40 maximum.
And,
20, 30, 40 maximum.
and the use of the property around the facility, if you had a playground for children to be utilized during the day, and it will not be, but it would not be a noise-creating type activity. There would be none at night.
Activity outside in a playground setting, but only during daylight hours. Is that what I understand?
At the maximum.
Yes, sir, at the maximum.
That's correct.
But did I understand you to say there would be no volleyball courts? You've scratched that idea?
Yes, in the last, after the meeting with Deer Creek, I spoke with my community members, and that for them is not very important, you know, issue where they can go and play anywhere else. So the outside is not a choice.
No volleyball courts?
No volleyball, again,
Okay.
no volleyball.
Okay. No, he didn't say that. Okay? But you still would have some outside activities?
Yes.
Sure.
When kids comes and want to play, it will be in the daytime, and just they can run, they can play, but not sport activity like that, the volleyball.
But during daylight hours?
Yes, during daylight hours.
Okay. Leon, I understand you to say there will be no outside, no exterior speakers, correct?
Yes, sir. No speakers outside, nothing outside the facility. Indoor.
Everything's indoors?
Yes, sir.
On the call to worship.
Indoor.
No outside speakers?
No outside speakers.
That's what I want.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure we're
Yes,
clear.
I'm with you.
Okay. Let's talk about the access at Vaughn Road. You said that the width of that pole-shaped lot at that point is how wide? You said, I heard you say 15 feet?
No, I think the...
Or 20 feet? Let's talk about ingress and egress at Vaughn Road, okay? Because the adjacent church has a curb cut right next door to it, okay? And how are you going to deal with that? Now, we're not traffic planners. We don't intend to try to tell you what you're going to do. That's going to be up to traffic engineering, okay?
That is
But
correct.
I'd like to get your take on it, Frank, as to how you intend to address right in, right out, and left in and left out.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put up another concrete entrance into
You're going to have
Vaughn.
to speak up a little bit, Frank.
But
So everybody, we can hear you okay. It's the
can you
people in the back.
hear me in the back?
Because
What we're gonna do
Time out. What I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to get y'all to tell us as much as you'll tell us at this point, so that it answers so many questions of the membership or the others that are here, so we're not having to deal with this, okay? So the more you can tell us, the better off we all are, okay?
We intend to put a concrete entrance into Vaughn Road that looks just like the entrance into the cell tower. It will be almost right side by side. The pastor to the Emmanuel Presbyterian Church is here, and she has given us a letter in writing stating that we can use the road to the cell tower, which is their road, just the cell towers, and their parking lot for egress and ingress if we need to.
Okay. You talked about a concrete apron.
Yes, sir.
The road is gravel now, correct? Or is the road going to be paved?
It's gravel now, and we intend to build a gravel road past the property line.
So how far will you extend the gravel into your property line so we keep gravel out of Vaughn Road?
Well, the concrete apron exit there will do the same thing that the concrete apron for the cell tower does. We will be past the property line coming back. You'll probably be about 25 feet off of the edge of the road with the concrete, and you'll start your gravel back behind that. It'll be compacted.
Well, here's where I'm going with that.
Yes, sir.
Aprons aren't all the time deep enough, okay? Would you agree to, provided we approve this, would you agree to extend that concrete apron back 25 feet inside your property line?
Yes, sir. We agree.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. We're trying to keep the gravel out of the Vaughn Road, okay? So y'all still have to work out your ingress, egress with the city, traffic engineering, right?
Yes, sir.
We're not going to get into that.
Right, we've already submitted plans to the DOT and the City of Montgomery Traffic Department for their comments, and so far we don't have any. But when they do make them, we will comply with them.
Okay. Tell us what you intend to do about signage, if any, at Vaughn Road, and what you're going to do about a trash dumpster.
Signage, I mean, we don't like, I mean...
There's nothing in our agenda regarding signage?
Yes, we did, I mean, just it will be a very small sign. We will comply with the city, East Montgomery Islamic Society, and the address. What the city wants us to do, we'll do.
Well, if you want signage at Vaughn Road, you'll have to come back.
Okay, at that point, we'll come back and ask for the sign, if we need a sign.
Okay. Are you going to have a trash dumpster on site?
Yes, we're going to have some.
And is it going to be one that a large truck comes in and picks up?
No, we're going to have these, we're going to have 4. We already have 4, and 4 small green ones, and they are more than what our needs.
You mean the rubber type?
Yes, the rubber type. We use now this at our facility for the last 8 years, and it's more than enough.
Well, if you ever do have a dumpster that requires picking up, we're going to want you to have it picked up during daylight hours and not late at night.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, board members, do y'all have any questions before I ask anyone in the audience if they care to speak?
I have one.
Mr. Hughes?
You said you had 60 members, I think. Considering how large this facility is, how many members could it take if you grew?
The facility is 6,000 square foot. Out of that is 2,400 are for the male and 1,200 for the female, and the rest is bathroom and kitchen. So the 2,400, maybe, I don't know engineering-wise how much it takes. For us to do prayers, we have to kneel on the ground. Each person may have 3 by 4, 12 foot. So maximum it can have maybe 150.
So you could grow to 150 members?
If they want to do prayers there, yes, sir.
Okay.
But your site is how large?
The site is 6,000 square foot.
No, not the building.
Yes.
How large is the square part
Yes,
of the site?
it is 4.92.
Okay.
Out of this 0.92 is lost in the road, and the rest is 4 acres, and we are using 2.9% of the area.
Yeah. So they could always come back, Steve, if they wanted to expand.
To expand parking, for example.
This approval is for 6,000 square foot building.
Okay. Okay. I
Any other
understand.
questions, board members? Yes, sir. Mr. Brent?
And so your parking would be equivalent to what you're doing with no problem for your vehicles?
Yes, sir. We have 72 parking planned now for that property by the engineer.
Would the board be?
I understand you're going to have 64 paved parking spaces, but the drive from Vaughn Road up to the larger part is going to be gravel. You're going to keep that gravel, correct?
Yes, sir. It's going to be gravel. After that, 25 foot from the Vaughn Road to be gravel.
No, 25 feet inside the property line.
Yes, inside our road. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Would the board be interested in hearing a couple of other people?
Not at this point. I still
okay.
got somebody else got a question for you, Mr. Campbell. Mr.
You
Reese?
referred to your location presently. Where are you located now?
Your current mosque.
The mosque? 3430 Kissinger Drive. It's behind Publix on Vaughan and Taylor, next to Blue Moon Cafe. Look next to Malcolm Drive.
Okay. Any other questions of the petitioner? Thank y'all very much. At this time, we'll hear from anyone else in the audience that cares to address this item for or against. And if you have a spokesman, that's preferred, of course. All right. Here.
How are y'all? My name is Brett Garrett. I'm here for the Deer Creek Homeowners Association. I appreciate your time. I've got a couple things I want to hand to you on the front end.
Sure.
That you made reference.
Dr. Said, y'all will be given the opportunity to come back after he speaks, and then he'll be given an opportunity as well. Thank you. To start out, I'd like to give a little bit of a history. Just 'cause I know there's probably some new folks or people that don't know exactly when we started, but this issue kind of arose back in 2012, and that was the first time that the society attempted to develop this property next to Deer Creek. And at that time, there was a meeting between Deer Creek residents and Dr. Zaid, and Mr. Garrett was there as well. And we talked about the plan that they were going to do and the building they were going to do. And they gave us these plans that I provided you just a second ago. And this was the original set. We had a meeting, we looked at these drawings, which were quite different from what we have with the new ones, which I have not seen before today. There was a meeting last week that Mr. Pruitt called to let the folks out of Deer Creek meet with the developers, and it was a very good meeting. It was very civil, and they exchanged some information, and I believe they brought a copy of the new plans to the meeting, but I haven't seen those, and we haven't had a chance to go through them in depth, which I think may be one of the kind of issues we're sticking with. And the reason being, when this popped up last time, I'm sorry. When we got together last time with Mr. Garrett and Dr. Zaid, we had a number of concerns, some of which I'll go over again today. But they agreed to make some concessions and to do some things on the plans, things like buffers, trees, lighting issues, some of the things we talked about today. And we had conversations about that, but they were never really implemented. Before they were implemented, the decision was made for them, excuse me, to move on, and it just kind of died and didn't go anywhere for about 4 years. And then it came back up now, which is bringing us back before you for determination on the issue. So, in honesty, it may be a good idea at some point, depending on how you rule, to at least give us an opportunity to look at the new plans, to see how those add up, to see if they've addressed our concerns. Because at this point, it's going to be it's going to be difficult to know exactly what they are putting in the plans and what they're not. I know they've told us that the exterior lighting won't be a problem. I know they told us that the exterior sound system won't be a problem. I know they're going to have a parking lot. I know there's going to be 72, apparently, or 60 parking spaces. I assume there would have to be outside lighting with that. I mean, I don't think you could have a parking lot without lighting of that size, but I may be wrong. But in any event, we don't really have a lighting plan. I'm not saying there's going to be floodlights
you know, all over the place shining out, but there is no exterior plan for us to look at. And now that we know the sound isn't an issue, that's a good thing. That's one thing we can move past. But let me point you to some photos. I don't have them to blow up, but if you would, take a look at page 12 of the blue binder. And what this is a Google Maps satellite image of the facility. And what's relevant on here, now obviously this is not to scale, what I've drawn in, this property is it's a bizarre piece of property. It's very long, and it has a very short frontage on Vaughn Road, and it's being used for multiple purposes. I mean, the front, we have a church. In the middle, which we've come before this board on before, there's a cell phone tower with an enclosure, and then the property that is at issue is on the far left in this picture where they want to build this mosque or community center. Now, importance of this is these houses that were discussed on the left back here, the ones in the Glen Rose pod, if you'll flip to the photos that I've given you, starting at 6, 7, 8, and 9, that will give you a good idea of the kind of exposure we're talking about. You know, the pictures in 6 and 7 were taken yesterday, the height of the summer, and this is just natural growth in this field. Well, all of this is going to be taken out and torn down when they develop the property. I have attached 8 and 9, which are photographs that were taken when the lot was cleared and what it'll look like when they build. And you can see there is a tremendous amount of exposure. I mean, whatever they build back there, if they're allowed, the people that live in Glen Rose are going to be absolutely on top of it. And on top of that, if you go to photograph 1, photograph 2, 3, that just gives you, again, taken very recently, that just gives you an idea. That's the looking toward their property from the main drive of Vaughn Road. And those poles that you see there are 38.5 feet tall. It's my understanding from the meeting last week that this building is going to have a dome on top. I believe that's correct. And it's 30 feet tall. So when you're talking in terms of the scope of what you're going to be looking at, every single person that comes down this road, in or out, this is going to be a prominent feature for them driving in and out. And that's the basis for the light pollution issues we talked about. It's the basis for the noise pollution issues we talked about. And I think that it's going to be difficult, really, especially along Glen Rose. We're going to be limited in terms of what we're going to be able to do to block that view. I mean, it is so close to the back of where they are, and it's going to be so prominent in their backyard view, and also the view coming in, that can you put up buffers? Yes. We haven't seen any specific design on that. We don't know how tall. We don't know if they're talking about a berm. They were talking about a berm in the last set of plans. We don't know if they're doing that again. We've heard magnolia trees. We don't know the sizes of them. So really, I mean, we've heard things that sound good, but there's nothing concrete that we can look at that really gives us an idea of what it's going to look like, how it could impact the community. And quite frankly, and this is, you know, it just is what it is. It is a different architectural design. I mean, again, I haven't seen all the plans, but there aren't a lot of domed structures in Montgomery. There may be 1 or 2 others, and it's not a problem with that. It's just we don't know what it's going to be painted with. We don't know the color of the dome. You know, is it gold? Is it silver? Is it white? Is it red? Which is important. It is something you're looking at every day, and you're driving in and out of the neighborhood, and it impacts things. It impacts the way people see the property. It becomes a focal point coming in and out every single day in the biggest drive into the neighborhood. And there's concerns about, obviously, property value and things of that nature. I mean, you won't hear a single thing from me having to do anything with the religious freedom aspect. I mean, there is no argument. We're not making an argument. We don't say there is. We wouldn't. This is simply about any building that was put in this space. We'd have the exact same concerns, and those are just a few we talked about. We touched on the traffic issue, but I do want to show you, if you would, go to 11 for me real quick. This is a photograph that shows this gravel dirt road is the road going into the proposed site. Then there's an adjacent road next to it, which is one that they built for access to the cell phone tower. And then the third one down there in the distance is the one that goes to Emmanuel Church. Now, this is a very narrow, if you flip back to 12, this is an extremely narrow piece of property that now has 1, 2, 3 driveways crammed into a very small area. And if you note above where I have that arrow on Vaughn Road, that piece of property is currently for sale as commercial property. So there's going to be yet another driveway, or potentially another driveway cut there. So we're going to have, between Deer Creek, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 driveways crammed into a fairly small area, and there's no room there for an A-cell or a D-cell lane. I don't know if the city has attempted to look at that or not, but with that many entrances piled on top of one another in such a short space, that's going to be a traffic problem. And it's going to be, and I know you're not a traffic engineer, I understand that, but I'm just saying from our perspective in terms of why could this be problematic. I mean, especially, I know that the calls to prayer at this mosque will be different than the church, but it's, I think, 3 times a day, heaviest at night and mornings. Of course, you have the traffic from the church now, you have whatever traffic comes and goes for the cell phone tower, which probably ain't a lot. But the main 3 generators of traffic are Deer Creek and these 2 facilities, the mosque and the church. So that's a concern. It's a concern for the people who live out there. You have that light there at Deer Creek, but once you get past that light, you have all these people, as it is now, that have to come to a dead stop and turn sharply right, depending on which the 3 roads are hit. And this property was never designed to be handled in this way. I mean, when this property was parceled out, the original intent was not to have 3 separate entities on a long, narrow lot. But that's how it's panned out over time. It's how it's worked. But that's the problem. I mean, that's what's causing this problem, is that over time, the property has been used in a strange way, and because of that, there are problems on the frontage. The lighting pollution issue, that's one that can probably be straightened out with, or at least we'll have a grasp of it by seeing some detailed plans. Excuse me. Is there floodlights on the outside, or is it decorative lighting? Is there parking lot lighting? I don't know the answer to that. But that's a concern we have just because it's so visible. I mean, if you own a house that touches on this property in Glen Rose, and they've got a parking lot back there with lights on all night, that's a problem. That's a legitimate problem. The same is true when people are coming up the main drive. I mean, if this is lit all the time, and maybe it has to be for safety, I don't know the answer. But if it is all the time, again, that glare and that light is going to be right in your face every time you drive in the neighborhood. So there are concerns there. There's the plans have changed, the orientation has changed from the set that I gave you dramatically. So again, until we can really get a grasp on exactly what they're trying to put out there, it's going to be difficult to be specific, or as specific as we'd like to be and that you would probably like. And again, in the past, we've had an opportunity to work with them and getting some of our concerns worked into the plans. We haven't really gotten that opportunity this time around. But comparing some of the things we were told last time, during the first round, we were told that there would be 72 families involved in this project with 372 individuals. That's dropped today to 60. I don't know how, and I can't explain that, but that's what we were initially told. Now, to be fair, the initial design was a 14,000 square foot facility. This is 6,000. Does that mean that they have voluntarily limited people who would have otherwise gone? I don't know. But the capacity for the building now is 250. So, I mean, I'm just saying there's some concerns there in terms of what we were told previously and what we're being told now. With regard to the traffic, the lane issues we talked about, Mr. Garrett tried to explain some of that during the last meeting. I couldn't fully get a grasp on it. I tried to look back at the ordinances myself, and a development for that it is now zoned for, this PGH 40, as I read it, this is a collector street. Collector street has to have 60 feet of right-of-way and 41 feet of road. You can look at these pictures. I think they've got 12 to 15 a dirt road now, and the roads are so close together. I don't know how they've got access. Now I hear you, that's a traffic problem. But just from a layman's perspective, of what I can gather from the ordinances, I don't think there's any way they have the room they need to be safe and to get the access they need. Now, I heard today for the first time that the church is willing to give them some kind of permission or an easement to use the road dedicated for the cell phone tower as their road, but that road doesn't go all the way back. It stops off their property. So there's still have to be some kind of connection done or some way to connect, one. And then two, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, are they going to build a road at all? I mean, if they're going to have free reign to use this road, are they going to build their own road or not? I don't know the question to that. And again, that impacts all this volume of traffic, the turning issues, et cetera, that we talked about and been brought up. I believe I have covered all of the points, but I do want to, I guess, reiterate this in terms. I think to the extent that you think this is an appropriate place for this this mosque, and we don't think it is. We think this is a really bad place for it. But to the extent you disagree and you think it's appropriate, I would ask in that instance that we be given an opportunity to at least have a chance to look at these designs, sit down with Mr. Garrett, Mr. Capuano, Dr. Zaid, and to go over and to see if we can't get some middle ground on this. That would be kind of my backup position to you, my backup request. And I don't think considering the changes that have been made to this plan over the last 4 years and our limited ability to have a look at it or discuss it in any real depth or any depth at all, I would ask to the extent that you disagree with what I'm saying and you think it's appropriate in a good place, that before you make a ruling, give us a brief period of time to be able to meet with them, work out some of these concerns, or reserve your right to rule until we've had an opportunity to do that.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anything else?
Thank you.
Excuse me. You realize that it's not up to this board to review and approve any exterior elevations?
Exterior elevation?
Elevations.
Yeah, I don't.
You understand that? Mr. Tyson, in this zoning, is there a height variance that might be required if, say, this building reaches a maximum height of 30 feet?
No, sir.
There's not?
No, sir, there's not.
Okay. Board members, do any of you have a question for Mr. Garrett, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Steve?
Yes.
This is at the entrance to this very large development. And I guess this is more of a question for Mr. Tyson. It would seem that since it is so visible, and because the plans have changed, and because everyone who lives in Deer Creek would have to be concerned about something that is built right at the entrance and could change the atmosphere of their entire community, that it would seem to me like the community should know what this building is going to look like and exactly what it's going to look like. Is it going to be two-story? Is it, many things would occur to me. And I know it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not we can approve this, but it is part of this decision in my mind. So is it appropriate for me to propose a delay?
It is appropriate, and I'll entertain that motion.
I will make a motion that we delay this
one
proceeding until the two groups have a chance to get together and look at the plan to see what this is going to look like.
Well, I have a question.
Mr. Chairman, normally your procedure has been where you hear from the petitioner, you hear from anyone interested coming forward and making comments, asking questions, and then you allow the petitioner to sum up and to answer those questions. So I think now it is improper to make a motion.
Okay, we'll delay that. We'll delay that. Mr. Hughes, you may have that opportunity later. Okay, I agree with that. Thank you. Hold on just a second. Everybody understand that? Okay. Mr. Williams?
Yes. Well, my question is, when the other gentleman said he met with the community, what did he show you then at that particular meeting? And how did the neighbor feel about that, what he proposed to you?
Right. We had a meeting last Wednesday, and they brought, my understanding is that they brought I was out of state listening by telephone, so I wasn't there personally. But my understanding is they brought a copy of the plan that you see here, but it was just a show, hold up, this is kind of what it looks like. Nothing was given out, nothing was handed out. Board didn't get a copy, nobody got a copy, it was there. And the question and answer was kind of like as a town hall. I mean, it was just anybody in the neighborhood who had any questions or any concerns or anything favorable, whatever it may be, they could simply ask Dr. Zahid, and he answered, Mr. Garrett answered, Mr. Capuano answered as necessary. So it wasn't anything detailed. It wasn't anything about the drawings or the plans, or there were concerns. We have concerns about having lights at night right on top of us. We have concerns about noise. We have concerns about X, Y, and Z. But there was not, let me look at the plans and see if you put in what we agreed to 4 years ago. There was nothing. Is there a lighting plan? Where are the lights going to be? Are there lights over the parking lot? Are there exterior floodlights? What kind of lighting? Things of that nature. There was just nothing detailed. It was more of a, let's let the homeowners field questions, ask questions as they need them, or whatever they want answered, and he responded. But it wasn't anything like the process we engaged in 4 years ago when we were trying to get here then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, before I give y'all the opportunity, I'm going to ask, does anyone else in the audience care to address this item on anything that has not been discussed so far?
My name is David Smart. I'm at 8654 Ashworth Drive in the Ashworth community of Deer Creek. Among the concerns where we're looking at the number of members, there is two other additional locations the group is meeting other than we're near the Blue Moon Cafe on Malcolm Drive. We were understanding that there were two other locations in West Montgomery, and as was referred to, coming with 79 families, and we've heard anything from 80 families to 20 families, and 20, 30, 40 children. Is it 20, 30, or 40? But we also discussed in the meeting last week that there would be a soccer field, there would be outdoor lighting, and they would be playing at night, and now they're not. Plans for growth is very limited. The call to prayer, would that be in writing? We're a community.
Excuse me.
Yes,
They've
sir.
given public testimony that they're not going to be doing that.
Okay.
So that's why I keep asking those questions. Make sure
Yes,
it's
sir.
clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir. We're a community of in excess of 1,600 homes in Deer Creek. And this is the primary entrance in and out of our neighborhood, as we do have two other entrances. This is the primary. And a gravel road is going to make dust. With some prevailing winds, we'll carry that over, or may look like we've had a snowstorm every day. But these are additional concerns I'd like to express.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
My name is Robert Weiss. I live at 8241 Jackson Trace in the Glenwood community, and I'd like to address the traffic issue as far as it might affect the Glenwood development. We have 50 homes and one entrance that is also the exit, and it is a short distance down the road from where their planned entrance to the mosque is. If traffic is coming out of the mosque, it turns left, it's going to pile up, in my opinion, at the Deer Creek light. If it turns right towards our subdivision, you go from a 4-lane road to a 2-lane road right there, beginning in our subdivision and ending in front of Southern Homes and Gardens. So it has already been a location of several bad accidents in there. And I think the traffic is going to be a real big concern. And if it is approved, would they be required to have a police officer direct traffic as other churches do when their congregation exits their prayer service or their meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Mr. Chairman, you asked me to keep up with time. You know,
I'm going to let everybody have something to say if they got something new. Anyone else?
Right there.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Al Garrison. I live at 8936 Autumn Brook Way in Deer Creek. I attended the information meeting, and there seems to be a little discrepancy in what was talked here, and I wanted to get that in the open. At the meeting, they mentioned the drive would require a variance because it couldn't be wide enough to accommodate a fire truck. If they're going to have, and also the architect said the capacity of the building would be about 300 people. And if they're going to have a driveway that is too narrow to accommodate a fire truck, I'm concerned about the safety of these people, a large congregation. Obviously, they're planning on enlarging their group, or else they wouldn't build such a large building.
Well, as I said earlier, we're not traffic engineers, and it's going to be left up to our fire department and city departments and traffic engineering to deal with those issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Goodner. This will be a little different, I think. I know most of you are going to deal primarily with abatement issues and things like that, but I'm going to look at some of the philosophy behind this. I don't know any members of the East Montgomery Islamic Society. I would love to get to know them. I'd love to have them over to my house for dinner. I have no problems with them at all. My thoughts are directed to you and the basis upon which you make this decision today. I've taught philosophy for 18 years. I've studied it for 39 years, and yet my only credential is that I'm a miserable sinner, Christian just trying to make it through the day. But I'll have 3 questions for you. First of all, it is common belief in our society today that our society is based upon the philosophy of pluralism. That is the idea that all civil and religious views are of equal value. No one belief is any better or worse than the next. Our school children are taught this by a concept called the melting pot, making them believe that America accepts all immigrants regardless of their practices or beliefs. The actual history of the United States tells a rather different story. Historically, all people were welcome to this land provided they gave up those views which were contrary to our accepted civil and moral way of life. Some 19th century Mormons were tarred, feathered, and run out of towns for being obnoxious religious zealots, practicing polygamy, marrying young girls, and believing women were mere property of men, and they had to flee the country. They had to go to Utah, which wasn't a part of the United States at the time. To be clear, we as Americans believe all people are created equal, but we do not believe all ideas of people are equal. Some beliefs are wrong and others are simply dangerous. Bad philosophy such as atheistic communism brought about the deaths of over 100 million people in the 20th century alone, and Nazism came in a close second. And it remains to be seen what the death toll will be from the rise of Islamic fundamentalist nationalism. My first question to you is this: do you know upon what basis you will make your decision today? Will it be pluralism or will it be something more rational? Secondly, one of our values of our culture is separation of church and state. Though misunderstood today, the principle meant that there was a separation of powers between the authority of the church and the authority of the state. The church was to handle spiritual and ecclesiastical matters, whereas the magistrate was to handle civil affairs and the power of the sword. One example of a Christian nationalist was Michael Griffin, who murdered the abortion doctor Gunn. Michael Griffin failed to realize that God hates the murder of abortion doctors just as much as he hates the murder of unborn babies. Griffin did not separate the power of the church and the state and took the power of the sword into his own hand. If a religious group fails to make this separation of powers between the church and the state, they are religious nationalists. Now, here's the point. Religious people holding to a separation of church and state humbly try to persuade others to their faith without altering the civil order of society. We call this evangelism. However, religious nationalists persuade others to come to their faith with the eventual hope of changing the civil order. This is not evangelism, it is called conquest. So my question to you is, do you know if this mosque will be teaching that fundamental principle of separation of church and state? And then thirdly, Christianity does have a written moral code. However, Christianity has always taught that one does not need the Bible to know what is right from wrong. It does not take a Sunday school class to know that murder is wrong, rape is wrong, child molestation is wrong, racism is wrong, and abusing women is wrong. Such truths are innately known because they are, quote, the law of God written on the hearts of men, unquote. Despite some rather evil Christians in the past, Christianity clearly teaches all people are created equal and made equal in Christ Jesus. Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, but all are one in Christ. And then again in Colossians 3:11, there is no distinction between the Greek or the Jew, the circumcised or the uncircumcised, the barbarian, Scythian, slave, free, but Christ is all and in all. Now, if my church in town began to teach that not all people are created equal, that it is morally permissible to marry 12-year-old girls, live in polygamous societies, and subjugate women as property of men, I would help this board shut down my church in Montgomery, because that violates a fundamental principle of who we are as American. I would help you see that it was closed. So my question to you, the final question is, do you know upon what moral code will be taught in this mosque? Thank you.
Sir, give me your name again.
My name is Kevin Goodner. That's Goodner.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Craig Babb. I live at 637 Cloverdale Road in Old Cloverdale, Alabama. I do not live in near where the mosque is going to be. And I'm a lawyer with a nonprofit here in town. And I have a short observation and a short story. And the short observation is that I live about 3 or 4 blocks from the First United Methodist Church in Old Cloverdale. And I hear from my home the chiming of the hour 24 hours a day. It's pretty lovely, actually. And I attend that church, and I attend lots of meetings there at night, and there are parking a lot of places, and there's lights in the parking lot. And I raise this just to make sure that questions that we're asking here today concerning whether this mosque should be built are the same questions that we would be asking if we were talking about a church. The second point is my story. I lived in the Palestinian town of Ramallah, about 6 miles north of Jerusalem. And I was working there and in the Gaza Strip, and I was helping to develop the rule of law under an American program there. After a year there, I came home, and I was in home outside of Chicago. And a year after I came home, 9/11 happened. And the first communication I received that morning, I was in Chicago, was an email from a former employee of mine named Nabil. And he was a very, very observant Muslim. I had hired him as my treasurer with the program that I ran in Ramallah. He sent me an email, and I couldn't find it before I came here, but I can remember almost exactly what it says. It was very brief. And it said, "Mr. Craig, we are devastated by what we have seen happen in America. And it is an item, an element of our faith in Islam, that anything that happens, good or bad, to me also happens to you." And he said, my point is that although the bombing in New York took place thousands and thousands of miles from Ramallah, we here in Ramallah feel the pain just as much as you do. And this is an important point when we're talking, certainly following the gentleman that just spoke. The basic premises of Islam is to live your life as best you can to try to reach the wisdom of God. It is a peaceful faith. When we moved there, and my wife came over and I said, you're going to be surprised. We're going to go to downtown Ramallah. And you're going to see a bunch of young men with Yasser Arafat beards, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, and it's going to be sort of intimidating. And I will tell you that if anybody so much as bumped up against you, you would have 10 of these men on your side protecting you because they are very observant Muslims, and that's how they live their life. So every time I hear a conversation concerning this structure, I think of Nabil's email to me on the morning of 9/11. And that tells me, and I hope it tells you, just about everything you need to know about Islam. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you to speak for or against? I want to get back to the petitioner as soon as we can. Okay, have you got something new? You got something new? Okay, well, come on up if you got something new. Excuse me?
He's for.
Well, I tell you what, okay, go ahead. Let's make it brief.
Well, I really wasn't. Good evening. My name is Ash Bedwan. I've lived in Montgomery, Alabama for 23 years since I got married. In that time, me and my wife have had 4 children, and we've raised them to be good Muslim Americans, but good Americans who have the Islamic faith. My children went to a Christian school all of their life, Chapman Christian Academy in Millbrook, Alabama. And I just wanted to give this view to folks who haven't had the chance or the opportunity to meet Muslims. We don't have horns, we don't have tails, so they could see people, real people amongst them in the community. My youngest son is the state tennis champion for the 16 and under. The one older than him is going to go to Troy University to play tennis and pursue a degree. The one older than him is a vice president of the honors program and a senior at AUM. And the oldest one is going to be a rising second-year student in the pharmacy program at Auburn University. So recently, and I also live at 9142 Brenham Court, which is in Marston subdivision of Deer Creek. And in that subdivision alone, there are 7 to 8 families who are Muslim. In all of Deer Creek, there are over 40 families who are Muslim. That's the ones that we know, besides the ones that we might not know about. Any given day, if you walk in Deer Creek, you will see Muslims on the tennis courts, at the pool, walking. If there was an event for Marston subdivision, that community picnic, we went, participated like anybody else. We met the families that were there. It was a cover dish. We cooked a dish and took it with us like a lot of the other families. So the other thing I want to comment about is there seems to be, we raise issues of traffic and lighting and certain things, and then we use the word atmosphere, but we're really hitting at one issue, that this is a mosque. It's not just a mosque, it's a community center. I would like for my children, when they want, to have a place to go and to keep them out of trouble, so to speak, just like all of the other families who might go to the YMCA. We have a lot of Muslim families that are members of the YMCA, and they go there. But the other thing is, if we're so worried about traffic, like the gentleman who's representing the Deer Creek Association, are we limiting the number of new homes that are constantly being constructed in Deer Creek that's raising the level of traffic more than people going nearby and not directly into the community? So, if we're going to be fair about it, we should raise all of the issues of traffic, lighting, You know, when we build more, that there's more pollution, whatever, how he described it. But ultimately, we are just people, human beings, who live in our lives as Americans. I was born and raised in this country. I feel disappointed that I have to come up here to say, hey, I'm proud, I'm American. I've always known I'm American, I've always known I'm proud, I've always known I've loved this country, and I've never been made to feel different until, unfortunately, the last 15 years. Any religion, any philosophy can be used, people can use that as motivation for negative actions and for criminal actions and terrorist actions. But you cannot characterize them as being radical Islamic belief or radical Christian belief. There's a belief. Study the whole history of this belief, how it has treated people with other religions, with other faiths, with other ethnicities. Then you learn that it's not the faith, it's the people who have distorted this faith that you love, might be Christianity or Islam. So ultimately, if you look, we had something here in the South for, and we still have it, although not in the proportions we had it before, called the KKK. It was very predominant in the South. They committed crimes in the name of Christianity. They would burn the cross on the lawns of other good Christian Americans. And all in the name of, if you don't believe with us, then you are not a Christian. Just like ISIS or these other folks that have tried to hijack this religion. Muslims in this world are 1.6 billion, roughly, and it was estimated in an article by a former judge and that maybe ISIS has members of 30,000. Please calculate what that percentage of Muslims represents. It doesn't even represent like 0.00001%. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. You got anything new? You want to say something? You got anything new? Yes, I do. Come on up. You're going to be the last one I'm going to hear, and we're going to go back to the petitioner.
My name's Ken Jones. I live at 9431 Shadesbury Court. I work on Maxwell Air Force Base at the Air War College. There's another dynamic to this mosque that is different. You can see there, where's Jordan? Yep, there, Jordan, there. These are international officers from around the world. There's lieutenant colonels, and there's majors, and there's captains that come to Montgomery, Alabama every single year. And I think I understand the ordinance. Let me rephrase that. I understand the discussion of the ordinance and all of that. I understand what I've heard from the doctor. It seems like they're very accommodating and they are trying to appease people, but there's a different element. We have these international officers who will go back to their countries and be very influential and powerful people someday. It's been borne out with many of them. So there's a different element to this to be considered. It's a way to show Muslim nations around the world the America we want to show them. And that's all I got to say. So thank you.
Mr. Capuano, y'all want to come back up? What I'd like for you to do, I hope you were taking notes. Whoever you want to come up, you want to address some of the concerns. I've got probably 12 concerns that were mentioned. I'd like for you to address those, and so that we can let everyone know.
All right, let's do it.
Again, if you need to repeat some of the issues that were committed to earlier, do so, okay? But I've got a whole list here.
All right.
So.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to turn it back over to you. Keep it brief, and so we can finish this up.
Yes, sir. My name is Aya Zaid. I live at 9660 Colleton Place. I moved there after I got married 3 years ago. Before that, I'm actually Dr. Zaid's daughter, so I've lived in Deer Creek for about, say, 10 years. In Deer Creek and been in Montgomery 16 years. I'd first like to address the concerns that Deer Creek brought forth. As a member of this community, I've always been as invested in Montgomery as a community as a whole, just as I am invested in the Muslim community here. We live in Ashworth. If Deer Creek is so worried and wants to see the plans, why have they never brought it up? We emailed them in February. Sir, we did not get a response until one day before the meeting. Hundreds of homeowners were there. We had 6 members of our community. If you really wanted to reach out to a community and say, please, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. What are you building? What can we do? This is what we would like. We're more than welcome to accommodate their concerns. We are just as invested in this community. We want this community to be strong, to stand united. We don't mean to divide it. We don't mean to bring all these people together to fight and bring out all the hateful rhetoric that's been going around on Facebook, on social media, in the news. That's not what we're here for. Montgomery is a growing city. You have international officers that come in every year, not just Muslim officers. That's 10 or 20. Let's say 10 to 20, depending on how many countries participate that year. Maybe that accounts for the difference in the number of worshipers they have. Maybe for 3 years, we had 20 families coming in with Maxwell, and then the year after that, we only had 5. It depends. The world is changing. If you're so concerned, sit down and talk to these people. Sit down. We have not. We've discussed anything. We've told them this is an open book. This is a community project. This will be open to the community. This is going to be a community center as well as a mosque. Yes, we will have prayer services just like any church would. But we also have other services as well. When your child needs ACT tutoring, we have some of the best tutors. When they need biology or chemistry because they go to LAMP, we have some of the best students. We have some of the best students, and they've been through that. Our students are amazing. We have tennis players. We have a dancer that's in New York studying now. I graduated from LAMP in 2006, and we have our ceremony, our graduation ceremony at First Baptist Church here in downtown Montgomery. It's a beautiful church. And I remember walking in that, loving it. I never thought, oh my God, why did they build? No, I was always in awe of how beautiful is this. I wonder if I could come in here one day. And then I've been to services with friends. We've never had these conversations. I've asked several of my friends, can you ask the boards of your church, did they have to go through this process? They said, no, not really, we didn't have to. I have emails. I hope that this is just because there's concern about traffic and light and all that. We can fix that, we can work on that. I don't see traffic as a concern. When you have 60 people coming in between 12:30 and 1:30 during their lunch break to pray on a Friday, I highly doubt most of the people in Deer Creek will be in that area. Majority of them are at work and their children are at school. And I know this because I sat at home for 3 months and was bored out of my mind because there was nobody, it was empty. You have working families. There's also, we also have an issue, you're worried about traffic, you're worried about the streets. Emmanuel Presbyterian has stepped forward. They've acted like the Christians that I grew up with. That's why I chose to go to a Christian law school here in Montgomery, not because I didn't get accepted to another one, but because I like the ideals that Faulkner Law stood for, and that they teach in a Christian environment. I appreciate the fact that my professor prays before class every day. I appreciate that. Emmanuel Presbyterian said, we'll help you. This is what we'll do. You help us with our flooding problem, we'll help you with this. That's how it works. That's how a community works. All I ask for you today is give it a chance. If Deer Creek wants to sit down with us, we'd be more than happy to sit down with them, but we ask for a structured timeline, meaning they can't delay us for 6 and 9 and 10 and a year, 10 months, and then a year and 2 years. It shouldn't drag on. This is something very simple. This is a place of worship, just like any other place of worship. Are we going to have kids? Yes. Maybe it'll be 20 this year in our Sunday school class. Maybe it'll be 30 next year. Is it limited to just Muslims? No. I've had non-Muslims in my class. Their parents send them to my Sunday school class to learn Arabic so that when they grow up, they have an advantage over other students, especially with the world being as globalized as it is. What message are we sending to the people outside about coming to Montgomery? Are all these doctors going to stay? No, they're not. If they can't find a community for their children to grow up in, they're not going to stay. We have 17 doctors, to be exact, living in Deer Creek alone. That's not including the number of doctors that work here. That's not including the number of nurses. That's not including the number of engineers and professors. We've lent this community our service. We consider it our own. The only time I do not feel like a true American is when things like this happen. Just give it a chance. If Deer Creek would like to sit down with the mosque board, we would be more than happy to sit down with them. We would be more than happy to discuss the traffic issues and all of that. But at the same time, we ask for them to also be fair. Because if this was a small church being built, would they ask the same questions? Would they be demanding the same demands? No lights, no traffic, no parking spaces? Limit this, limit that. Those homeowners, those 5, they want to sell their homes. One of them is Muslim. I'm sure he doesn't mind a mosque being in his backyard. As for the others, I'm sure Deer Creek has no problem taking the money of people when they come into the community and telling them, yes, please, yes, buy this house. We're very supportive. We have so many Muslims. But now it's an issue now that there's a mosque in their backyard. And is it really in their backyard considering we're building on 2.9% of our property? And we've already talked to them and told them, we will build, we will plant trees to make sure that your homeowners don't see the mosque. Is it guaranteed that we're going to have a dome? No. It's open to the public. This is a community project. That's why we had 500 signatures within 36 hours, because people felt comfortable enough to approach and say, I want to sign your petition. I've dealt with you guys before. I know how hard you're working to build this. There's 2 mosques. Yes, there is. In Montgomery, there's one on Fairview and one on Court Street. Are they convenient? No. They're very far. It takes 25 minutes to get to the Fairview Mosque at 9 p.m. at night. Try it. I did it for a whole month. 25 minutes. Is that fair to expect all these families that live in Deer Creek and the surrounding neighborhoods to drive 25 minutes every time they want to worship in a neighborhood that's unsafe? How many of you have changed churches because you've moved? Because I know my boss has several times. And all in all, I just ask that the board give it a chance. Let us sit down. If you insist on denying it or asking that Deer Creek sit down, that's fine, but please give them a set timeline, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if you are prepared
I'll try to answer them if I
but
can't,
to address some of the questions that
Sure.
came up.
Go ahead.
Regarding the physical part.
Yes,
okay?
please.
There was some discussion about the gravel road.
Yes.
And based upon comments earlier, the intent is to leave that gravel road in a gravel road state, except 25 feet inside the property line. Would you care to address that? Because there was some concern about dust and whatever coming from the gravel road.
I'd be glad to. First of all, the driveway they have there now does not have a whole lot of dust when you go down it. It's been compacted. It's got rock over the top of it. It's not just a dirt driveway. It's got some of that Birmingham slag on it, and that's what this one will have too. The exit to the cell tower and the exit to Emmanuel Church is kind of gravelly too. It's not asphalt. That does not raise a whole lot of dust when they go into there for weddings and funerals and all that kind of stuff. If you're worried about lights going down that road, those lights will hit directly into a 6 to 8 foot privacy fence, and we're going to plant magnolia trees that are 6 foot tall to begin with on 6 foot centers all along there, and I got that from the city arborist. He says that's the best way to limit noise and light that there is, and so I took his word for it, and that's the plans at the present. But those lights coming down...
The entire length of that drive, correct?
No, sir. It will be at the property line adjoining Deer Creek. In other words, all the lights coming down that driveway will focus into the privacy fence, and also the magnolia trees.
Frank, I don't understand that. That's not, no, I don't see the plan.
Can I show you?
Show us on here where you're talking about the magnolias and the lighting.
This is the, yes, the track. Push this button. Yes, this one, yes. Yes, it's working, but you want to go in there.
Along this property line right here,
That's the
They
south
have-
boundary.
Right here, they,
That's the south boundary, correct?
right, yes, sir.
All right.
Now, here's the driveway coming in, so all the lights will be pointed towards that property line where the light is.
You mean they'll be pointing directionally into your property from that property line?
Actually, when they come down this driveway, the lights will be pointed at the south line of their property line right there. Along that south line is a 6 to 8 foot privacy fence that's wood. Right next to that, the Islamic Society is going to put 6 foot tall magnolia trees to begin with on 6 foot centers, according to Russell Springer, the city arborist. That's what he asked me to do. And those trees will grow over a period of time, but they'll be 6 foot tall to begin with.
Will they be irrigated?
They will probably be irrigated.
Probably, or yes or no?
That's, actually, I asked Russell to tell me. He said he would like to. If that's one of your requirements, we will certainly do it.
Well, they won't grow if you don't irrigate them.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay? All right, tell me what about the lights? So the lights going to be directional into your property and not filtered over onto the adjacent property owners?
Are you talking about the outside lights to the parking lot?
Correct.
I don't see why you couldn't aim them away from Deer Creek and towards the Emmanuel Church, or actually towards the cell tower there. That's where the main parking lot is, and that's where the lights really ought to be.
Well, there are lights they make for football fields, and they are directional, and they don't filter to your adjacent property owners. Okay? There was a mention about a potential soccer field. Is that still a possibility?
No, sir, it's not a possibility.
Okay. There was a request about a traffic officer being made available on Vaughn Road during hours of your services.
Yeah. The membership of this mosque is limited. The need for a traffic officer would be basically non-existent, but we would do whatever the traffic conditions require should the situation exist to where there is an officer that is required. It would be wise to get one. If it doesn't create a problem, then you would likely not have an officer there. I would like to make this comment about the meeting that we had at Deer Creek a week ago, because at that meeting, during the course of making the presentation, it was obvious to me that there was a lot of sentiment which was opposed to the building of a mosque at this facility, at this location. And I suggested to the meeting at that time that if they would appoint some members of their community who wanted to meet with members of the mosque and meet with the engineer and the architect, that we would be happy to accommodate them. We heard nothing from them after that, but we are happy to meet with them. Not that everything that they may ask for can be accomplished, but we're happy to meet with them. So in answer to his suggestion that there be a delay, I would suggest to this meeting that we can have a postponement for a month. They will have an opportunity to meet with us and see if their requirements can be satisfied. As far as the traffic is concerned, I think that the traffic that would exist on account of this facility would be very limited, but that will be controlled by the traffic department and whatever their requirements are. We'll comply with that. We suggest that there be a meeting postponed till the next meeting, and we'll have an opportunity to meet with them. If they're active in that pursuit, we'd be happy to meet with them.
Thank you.
May I add
Yes, sir.
something, sir?
Yes, sir.
I sent a letter to them requesting a meeting in February, and we decided to meet in the March 21st, 22nd, or 23rd, and we decided to meet. Then I called them They told me, no, they don't want to meet with us. I spoke with Miss Bam. And if she's here, she can. Yes, I spoke with Miss Bam. She said, no. Then my engineer said, send them a certified letter. So I sent a certified letter for Deer Creek. And after that, I received, they said, yes, they offer it. But on February, I asked them, and we decided to meet on March 21st, 22nd, or 23rd. And when we agreed on a date, and then they said, no, they don't want to meet.
But we're willing to meet. The members of the mosque would be willing to meet.
Thank you.
And the traffic problems we can work out with the city.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask Mr. Hughes to make that motion to delay the meeting until our next meeting, which would be, Tanya, what date would that
August
be?
18th.
Excuse me?
August 18th.
August 18th. That's on a Thursday, 5 p.m. here. And I'm asking the neighborhood and y'all to meet so that we can accomplish that meeting a month from now. Okay?
Thank you.
And we would like to have the neighborhood.
We're not going to be here to repeat everything we talked about again today. Okay? The purpose of that meeting is for y'all to get comfortable with the issues and the concerns that have been brought up today.
And we would like for somebody from the Deer Creek Association or the neighborhood to contact us within the next 10 days.
I'll leave that up to y'all.
Okay.
Mr. Hughes?
I want to be clear where I was coming from before. I'm a real estate person by trade, and so my concern was what effect this building would have at the entrance to this community. And I would have had the same concern if it was the church in Old Cloverdale or wherever it was, what impact it would have by how it looks. And so that was where I was against the antenna, the cell tower, when it was there, because I thought it impacted the community in a negative way. So I just wanted for everybody to get together to let the Deer Creek community hear and interact, and so that is the nature of what I said. So now I'm going to make that request one more time. I move that we delay this until the next meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Who gave the second? Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Mr. Williams? Ms. Brown?
No.
Okay, we have one, two, how many?
I've heard of no.
1, 2, 3. We have 6 and 1. Are you opposed or you opposed?
I oppose.
Okay. We'll see you next month. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the meetings?
Yes.
So moved.
So moved.
I can't hear.
Minutes are good.
I can't hear.
The minutes are good. They're approved. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Second.